This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, ho there, Jeff Carter, and welcome you to another sports catastrophe birthday boy. And the birthday boy for today, May the 18th, is one Vince Young. I know I did Matt Leinart a week ago. Ironically, some news ago, Matt Leinart had his birthday. 2006 Rose Bowl game between Texas and USC. And I'm now doing the other quarterback. He's now 38 years old. Vince Young was drafted third overall by the Titans in the 2006 NFL Draft. The same draft as Matt Leinart was in, and Leinart went down 10th to the Cardinals. Young played for the University of Texas. He basically was pretty good. He took second place in the Heisman Trophy behind Reggie Bush. And, of course, Vince Young led his team to the national championship game against USC in the 2006 Rose Bowl, which is one of the greatest games ever. All that. Texas retired Vince Young's number 10 jersey. Why not? He would play for the Titans, and he did pretty well. 30 wins and 17 losses in his starting role with the Titans. It seemed like he was on a roll. He was the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year and was actually a reserve on the AFC Pro Bowl team. In 2009, he was named NFL Comeback Player of the Year. Unfortunately, he slid down with a lot of things. He would be backing up the Eagles in 2011 and have off-field stints with Buffalo, Green Bay, and Cleveland, not getting a contract. He tried to come to the CFL to Saskatchewan, but was released. So basically, something really happened to him with the Titans and all that. It just shattered his confidence. I mean, he went to 2 Pro Bowls. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year. He was Comeback Player of the Year. He won the BCS title. And it's never retired. Like, what the hell happened? Basically, Vince Young had his mother and grandmother help him avoid gang life and all that. So Vince Young was one of the best high school quarterbacks in Texas and all that. He would enroll for the University of Texas. Well, why not? So anyway, he was part of a great recruiting class for the Longhorns that had Justin Blaylock, Selvin Young, Aaron Ross, and a few other NFL players. Young would redshirt his freshman year. He would be second on the depth chart behind Chase Mock. That's a weird name. But anyway, Mock was benched halfway through the season for Vince Young. And he would alternate playing time with Mock. However, the 2004 season basically brought him up through. He was a redshirt sophomore. He held Texas to an 11-1 mark, losing to Oklahoma in a shutout. But they were top 5 final ranking, and they got to the Rose Bowl against the University of Michigan. Obviously, the Rose Bowl is kind of a BCS thing. And let's face it, the best team in the Pac-10 basically was USC, but they were playing in another bowl for the BCS title, if you will. So anyway, he had a reputation to be a dual threat quarterback. He ran for 1,200 yards in his Texas season, the season of 04-05, and passing for 1,800 plus yards. They decided to change everything from I formation to a shotgun formation with 3 wide receivers. So it was pretty good. Texas would play Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and that was one of the best Rose Bowls of all time, the 2005 Rose Bowl, which Texas had to win on a last-second field goal. Vince Young helped Texas come back against Michigan in that game. But it wouldn't be the last time Vince Young would be in the Rose Bowl. He was the starting quarterback for the 2005 Texas Longhorns, who were pretty good and all that. They were number 2 in the preseason and never lost it. Well, you don't lose games. But the worst part is they weren't even number 1 because USC was number 1, and they were on that 30-plus game winning streak and all that. Texas won the Big 12 matchup and would have been number 2 in BCS, would put them against USC Trojans. And a lot of people said the 2000s USC Trojans were the best college football group of all time. They were running a 34-game winning streak. They had 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, who, of course, beat Vince Young for the title that year. But Vince Young basically was the huge part of it. He himself accounted for 467 yards of offense, 267 yards passing, and 200 rushing. Can you imagine a quarterback running for 200 yards in a game? That's hard to do even for a normal running back. But the 2006 Rose Bowl was fantastic. Vince Young scored 3 rushing touchdowns, including that famous 4th and 5, the national championship on the line, as Keith Jackson described it. Longhorns won 41-38. He was Rose Bowl MVP, obviously. He was amazing. And I picked Texas to beat USC, and I'm like, I hate these USC guys. I feel like Texas will somehow pull rabbits out of their hat and beat SC kind of in their own backyard, the Rose Bowl. So I was right. Anyway, Vince did pretty well. 30-2 as a starter for the University of Texas and all that. So yeah, he was pretty good and all that. Well, kind of biased, but in 2007, ESPN had said the top 100 plays in college football history, and they put his game-winning touchdown at number 5, even though that it was only like a year plus after that. So yeah, he did okay. All that. He was the first player in NCAA history to pass for 3,000 yards and rush for 1,000 in the same season as a quarterback. The only other player was Dan Lefevre of Central Michigan. Young did a lot of things for University of Texas and all that. A lot of BCS records. So anyway, yeah, he was good. He won a couple of ESPYs for his college role. So Young did indicate he wanted to return to Texas for his senior year in 2006. Young said he needed to discuss the matter of foregoing his senior year of college with his pastor, his family, and Coach Mac Brown. Well, Vince Young decided, I'll go try it. Now, people said that even after his Rose Bowl performance, the NFL won't be high for him because he has an unorthodox sidearm throwing motion and a different style play in the NFL. Now, New Orleans could have grabbed him in the draft, but because they picked up Drew Brees as a free agent, and free agency was a month before the draft, they didn't need a quarterback and all that. Tennessee thought they should draft Matt Leinart, despite the fact that Steve McNair, the Titans quarterback, was actually a personal friend of Young's. So basically, it was all that. Unfortunately, the Wonderlic, the standardized test given to the recruits, was problematic. He scored 6 out of 50. And basically, they thought that that score is going to make people do all that. But the score was incorrect. It was a 16. So the Titans drafted Vince Young 3rd overall. After Houston passed on him to go with Mario Williams, defensive end, and New Orleans took Reggie Bush. It was good. The Titans decided to draft him instead of Leinart. It was amazing. Young did pretty good for himself. But his first fourth quarter comeback was one of legends against the New York Giants. The Giants were up 21-0 in 2006. Eli threw an interception to Pac-Man Jones. And then Young found his former Texas teammate Bo Scaife, the tight end, in the end zone. Young threw his second touchdown of the quarter. And after that, Young led his team down the field for Rob Bronis' field goal to sink the Giants. I believe that was the game that Ozzy Urumura led up on a defensive tackle, even though that he could have tackled the guy down. But he led up and the Titans won that game. So he did pretty well and all that. He was offensive rookie of the year. Why is that? But the weird thing is he was only the 3rd quarterback to win the NFL offensive rookie of the year. Dennis Shaw and Ben Roethlisberger were the other ones. Really? Anyway, Vince Young had a good rookie season and all that. However, rumors were bad, and Vince Young almost ended his career after winning Rookie of the Year. I really thought long and hard he would go on to say. Well, his stuff was blown out of proportion and all that. Vince Young actually ended up being on the video game cover of Madden 08. And as we all know, that's a jinx. So anyway, Vince Young had things going. He would get hurt. He would do okay in a sense. But of course, the 2008 Titans season when, the Madden curse happened. The Titans somehow were 13-3, even though that Vince Young went down. And then Kerry Collins was to be the starter the rest of the year because of Young's knee injury. But nevertheless, he was basically... Well, Jeff Fisher said that if Vince Young wanted to be the starting quarterback in 2009, he would have to earn his job back. But Kerry Collins sucked. He was 0-6. All that. But Vince proved everyone wrong. He won 8 of his 10 starts in the 2009 campaign, which was pretty good and all that. In fact, the 2009 Titans were the first team in NFL history to win 5 straight after losing the first 6. So they went from 0-6 up to 5-6. So yeah. He almost was comeback player of the year. He was the Sporting News comeback player of the year, but not the NFL comeback player of the year. Tom Brady ended up winning that because of his knee injury the previous year and then coming back. So anyway. Young had problems. In week 11 of the 2010 season, he tore a tendon in his right thumb, and he wanted to re-enter. The game, but they told him he would throw his shoulder pads into the crowd as he left the field and stormed out. Fisher said that Rusty Smith would be the Titans' starting quarterback. And then basically after the 2010 Titans season, he wasn't supposed to be on the roster and all that. He did pretty good for the Titans, 63% winning percentage in 5 years. But his touchdown passes to interceptions were bad, 42-42. Young was released by the Titans, and then one day later, the Eagles said, we need him to back up Michael Vick and all that. He did okay and all that, but Vince Young just wasn't there. And the Eagles, the 2011 Eagles, who were supposed to be that great, actually fumbled, and they sucked. Young tried his hand at different teams, Buffalo, Green Bay, Cleveland, but he was released. Buffalo released him 3 months after they signed him. Green Bay released him 25 days after they signed him, and the Browns released him 11 days after. And there were rumors that Vince Young would come to the CFL for Saskatchewan. He was going to be the back. He was fighting for the backup spot behind Kevin Glenn. All that. Unfortunately, Young would miss a lot of time with a torn hamstring, and basically the referees waived him. His regular season, 46 touchdowns to 51 interceptions. I mean, he was regressing and all that since his injury in 2008. So, yeah. He was with the University of Texas to work on division of diversity and community engagement as a development officer. But sadly, though, he had a lot of bad performances. All that. Yeah, he had a lot of issues. He disappeared September 2008. He was injured and all that. The fans were booing him. He left his home without a cell phone. They found Vince Young 4 hours later, and his son was hurting. Vince Young would have to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Not good. All that. So, yeah. He had a few DWIs and part of the Madden curse. Madden curse just gets everybody, don't you think? Yeah, Vince Young could have been as good as he wanted to be, but the NFL just ruined him. I guess there's always room for the fact that college quarterbacks sometimes just can't make the transition over to NFL. I'm Jack Diamond. I do.